Hi Aries, this is Kajora Lovely with your general reading for the month of October 2019. For those of you who are curious, I am reading with the Modern Spellcasters Tarot. In this reading, we're going to go over your general energy for the month and then something for you to keep in mind. Okay. All right. So, where you are this month is the Judgment card. Let's see. This card artwork doesn't really sugarcoat it. The Judgment doesn't have to be intense. It's usually about a spiritual awakening of some sort, some kind of epiphany or realization. It usually can mean something is coming to light. In a way, this doesn't surprise me because Pluto's going direct at the beginning of this month on October 3rd, I believe. And that rules a lot of things like death and rebirth. It's all about eliminating things, wiping the slate clean, starting something new, getting a fresh perspective, having an epiphany, having a realization, and changing the way that you approach something moving forward. So it looks like that could be a major theme for you this month, is going into it, having a lot of epiphanies, realizations, huge changes, and I feel like also judgment calls I'm hearing. What's influencing you is the Seven of Cups in reverse. So this is actually, if you feel like you've only had bad options, usually upright, this card is about having illusions presented to you. Someone could be presenting a lie or something that isn't real, something that's contrary to the truth. Or you could have options in front of you that you don't necessarily want to take, that they weren't good ones, they weren't viable options, they weren't roads you wanted to go down. All of that is changing this month. So usually I see that to mean you will have some options presented to you soon that you actually do want to take, which is good news. Which makes sense because what's crowning you is the Knight of Swords. I usually see this as diving headfirst into something. You know, you're ready for action, you're ready for battle, so to speak. And usually with the Knight of Swords, it's that you're so amped up, you're so ready, you're so excited, you don't care if there's an army behind you, you're charging in. So I see that as pretty good news because it means that you're not really afraid to do that. You're not afraid to try something new or take a leap or whatever it is, however that manifests in your life. But usually there's a lot of courage with that. What's also influencing you is the Six of Pentacles. This is about having dynamics that have an equal give and take, that are evenly distributed. It's also about giving when you're in a position to and receiving when you're in need to, without shame, without guilt, without remorse, without any of those issues. It feels like when you do receive something from someone else, whether it's big or small, however that manifests in your life, to do so with gratitude. That it's not a sense of, oh, this is weakness, this is beneath me, I should be the one providing. It's more of coming at it with, thank you, universe, for providing this for me the way that I needed it. I feel like that there's an important lesson there. And I've actually been seeing that come up in my personal readings as well, of practicing gratitude even for the little things, even when it feels like you're in that scarcity mindset, like maybe there isn't enough and you want more, or you're ready for more to come in, but for whatever reason it's not. A big lesson has been to practice gratitude for what is there at the present moment. What do you have right now? And to be grateful for those little things, because it's often those little things that really you can survive on. In the meantime, even if it's not necessarily easy, it's still about noticing what is there. Where you are this month too is the Chariot in reverse. So some of you could be dealing with a Cancer sign. Not necessarily though. I usually see this as there's something that's not moving forward as quickly as it could, or there's a delay on something. So let's see, how can you change that? Can Aries change this energy? Eight of Cups. Some of you may need to leave something behind. So whatever your situation is, the Eight of Cups is usually the energy where you're working on something, but it's not really complete, but you kind of get to the point where you're like, I don't really care, I'm done, I'm over this. And so you leave something, even though it's not complete, even though it's not finished, because you're just so fed up. And it's usually not necessarily making a big show of it, but more about kind of slipping away quietly into the night and leaving and saying, not really even saying goodbye a lot of the time. And as far as whether it's with anyone else or not, the Eight of Cups is a solitary departure card. It's leaving something alone or by yourself. There's two cards that are about leaving. The other one is the Six of Swords. That one is about leaving with other people. This one is about leaving on your own. So it's usually a decision that's made just for you. So whatever this is that could be holding things back from moving forward, feeling like things aren't moving forward as quickly as you would like, there may be something that you have to leave behind. It could be a person, an energy, a feeling, a thought process, a mentality, however it applies to you. And you could always do some journaling or meditating, think on it. If you do meditate, I think you could also call on your spirit guides and ask them, please make it clear, what is it that I meant to leave behind? And usually with that, I would say first thought, best thought, even if it's uncomfortable or hard or maybe not something you want to face. And that's when I would have, some paper nearby and a pen to write down what it is that comes up. And because especially for some people, you can get a lot of things. Like my guides, when they start, they just keep going. So I find it's helpful to write down those things as they come so you can go back to it and refer to it later, because we often think we'll remember, but that doesn't usually happen. What's influencing you also is the Magician in reverse. Some of you are not really seeing how powerful you are, how capable you are, what it is that you are, you can achieve at all in life. What I'm hearing is recognizing the fire within with this card. So I feel like it's also not doubting your own self-worth. For some reason, they're saying the word subsistence, which I'm not even sure if that's a word. But there's something too about, I feel like it comes back to this energy. What can you survive on? And reminding yourself of sorry, someone's talking. It's something like, even with a momentary lapse of judgment, you yourself can survive on subsidies. That may not apply to everyone, so take that as it does apply. But it seems like there's something too. Some of you have had an ego hit. That's what it feels like. There's something that may make you feel like you're not as strong or all powerful or as commanding a presence as you want to be, especially as an Aries. You're the conqueror, you're the emperor in tarot. It's all about being the king, being the gladiator, being the one who's like, I'm going to go conquer that mountain and we're going to go do it. That there may be something that it feels like you're feeling off. And it could also be because we're in Libra season for the first half of this month, which is your opposite. And there is a full moon in Aries on October 13th. So it could also be of those things. Those things could be making you feel a little off. It's 6 months since your birthday, another 6 months till your next season. So usually when you're dealing with your opposite, it can show you a lot of mirrors that are hard to deal with. And so there could be something where it feels like it's almost like it's chiseling away at you, at your heart. For some reason, I would just ask, what would help with that? I was getting moss. I don't know if that's necessarily helpful for some of you, but to me, I associate moss with something that's kind of delicate and soft, gentle and kind. And so it feels like something, and it's also green, which is the color of your heart chakra. So it feels like applying some sort of energy like that, something that's soft, that, grows in warmth. There's something to that. If this really resonates with you, I would say you could Google it and see what comes up, because it feels more like being kind to yourself will help you recognize your own power, which I feel just makes sense. Because it's also that, you know, life has its ups and downs. It's not always going to be constantly going up. You know, it's not always going to get better. That's just the way that it is. And I think that if you're feeling, and also what's standing out on this card too is this snake that is molting its skin, it's shedding. So I feel like, again, you could be going through that of you're shedding a skin, you're going through a period of transformation and change. That's partly what happens in autumn. It's a time of going inward, doing self-reflection, introspection, spending some time alone, some quiet time to yourself. Someone's guide is saying quietude. And it feels like they're saying knowing no remorse or shame for yourself anymore. Time to be alone. Time for quietude. And they're saying remorse and shame again. So I think it's also, if you're feeling those feelings, it's time to do some personal inventory, you know, of how you can work through them. And what they're showing me is, man, your guys really want you guys to do some shadow work, which is where you kind of face the shadows within. It's a little intense, I'm not gonna lie. You know, as healers, we do it. As a tarot reader, I mean, it's a constant. So I think it's just a part of life sometimes. But what they're saying too is, again, piece of paper. You can do this on your computer if it's a little bit easier, but however your mind works, whatever is the easiest avenue for you, whatever you feel most comfortable, getting vulnerable with yourself, whatever that safe space is, whether it's in your bed or it's out in nature, it's by the ocean, it's in the desert, it's in the trees, you know, whatever that is for you. I feel like writing down the thought that comes up or the thing that you want to work on. And I feel like maybe being as specific as you can, or even just starting with whatever comes up, because as you go into it, it's going to get more and more specific and other deeper things are going to come up, which is usually why you want to do like 5 or 6 at least to start, because the more you go into it, the more the underlying feelings beneath those things start to come up, and then you start to get really deep. Like that's where the jewels are in a way. Is that some people are afraid of getting deep, but I feel like when you start to go deeper, you get into the real kernels. It excites the healer in me in the sense that it's like, okay, what's really the underlying issue here? It's not the presenting problem of what you think is the issue. It's often something much deeper. But I feel like, again, writing down the individual thing and then next to it, writing a way that you can change that thought process or belief system around. What can you do to eradicate that or undermine it, reveal it, show its true colors, show it for what it really is? So I feel like that's some homework for you for, you know, the whole winter, maybe, if you feel up for it. And if you ever need help with that, you can always book an individual tarot reading with me. I also do Reiki sessions, and I do distance Reiki for those of you who aren't in the LA area. Otherwise, I'm in Long Beach, California. But like I said, I love going into stuff like that. So if you ever need a Reiki or tarot or both to go into that some more, you can always email me, and all that information is in the description box below. As for the near future, fortunately, what you have here is the star. This is about feeling optimistic and hopeful. It's about seeing the light and the dark, noticing the good that's in the world. And this also relates to the sign of Aquarius. And for some reason, I'm getting that there could be some things going on for you during Aquarius season that might be pretty good. In the more distant future, you've got the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Now, this means that you may have a teamwork situation that's not going quite as well as you might have hoped. Sometimes it's just somebody's not pulling their weight. They don't want to put in the work. When usually with this card, when it's upright, it's often about Teamwork, it could be a relationship or work, a friendship, whatever it is. Usually it's more that whoever's involved understands they're putting in the work and effort to build something for the future. They want to build something that's going to last. And so they're willing to take the time and craft it and create it and grow it and talk about it and nurture it, you know. But otherwise, if it's in reverse, none of those things are happening. They may not see the goal. They may not understand it. Any of those things. And there could be multiple factors. But whatever it is, they don't want to grow something. But at the same time, you've got the Queen of Pentacles. So I feel that this could be an earth sign who's influencing you. Personally, I see the court cards as an aspect of you. So as a part of you, this is you figuring out what you can grow independently, what you want to build, what you want to take care. I don't know why they're saying put measure to growth or success. That it could also be, if there's not teamwork involved, then you doing a personal inventory to see how far you've come on something, especially if it's something that you've been working at, because the Pentacles have to deal with earth energy. So work, home, and career, but they also are, I mean, it's, if you think about any earth sign, you know, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, they're very much, in my opinion, the workhorses of the zodiac. You know, Aries, with you and other fire signs, it's often action. You're very action driven. Air signs are very thought driven. Earth signs are a bit more practical, whereas water are more emotional. So it's really this aspect of your own personality, right? Of how far have you come? How much have you done? How much work have you put in? And I feel like seeing that and acknowledging it. And the way that she's holding this pentacle, I feel like nurturing it and also nurturing yourself in that. There's a lot in here about like not necessarily feeling in the gap of, have I even done anything? Have I even accomplished anything? That for some reason you're meant to see how far you've come, you yourself. And so it feels like too, especially for some of you, if this happens in the future, you have a teamwork situation that goes sideways or someone where you realize they don't want to do this, then it's time to take some personal inventory again, and notice your own growth and development. Notice how far you've come, what you've established in your career, what you've established maybe after things have gone sideways in your life. And I feel like nurturing that, tending to it, taking care of it, and also taking care of yourself. I'm getting a lot of like being kind to yourself. And then what you've got is the Hermit. I'm not at all surprised to see this card. This relates to the energy of Virgo, but this card is really about withdrawing from people, outside situations, kind of going inward, taking time for yourself, listening to your own guidance, maybe talking to your spirit guides for some of you. I feel like a lot of it is really listening to your own counsel and kind of sitting with some stillness and some, I'm gonna quietude. Sorry, they're just like repeating it now. I feel like they're just messing with me. There's something too about the keys that stand out. So for some of you who that really resonates with, maybe look up the symbols of keys and what that means. Because I feel like there's something there for you, but it's really about taking some time as you need it. And because it's the Hermit, it can be a little bit more of a longer term card, because it's major arcana, and the major arcana are a bit more intense messages. They're much bigger messages, sorry. And for some reason, when I see the tree, I'm hearing tree of life. So I feel like for some of you, maybe listening to divine knowledge, maybe learning something for some of you, learning about theology, occult mysteries, those apply to you. Otherwise, it could also just be reiterating that some of you are in school or learning new things. It could also just be reading up on topics that you find fascinating or watching videos or TED Talks about something that speaks to you internally. So let's see, we kind of covered a lot, so I'm not going to pull a lot on what for you to keep in mind, because it's not like you guys don't have homework if you want to do it. Let's see, what's something Aries can keep in mind for the month of October? Two of Pentacles. So you may be juggling some things this month. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like this won't be going on for very long. But with this one, it feels like, yeah, you'll be juggling some things for a little while. It can also mean, for some of you, you might be moving, you might be changing jobs, you might be juggling a couple different forms of income, some responsibilities. You could just have a few things going on this month. Anything else? Eight of Swords. So this kind of comes back to that inventory list thing we were talking about. This is about kind of breaking yourself out of any mindset that you've been in that is not helpful for you. Eight of Swords is, the swords are thoughts. So with this, it's that he's literally imprisoned, or you are one, is literally imprisoned by thoughts. And so it's really, how can you work your way out of this situation? What is the thought that you can debunk? So I would say this is just reiterating what came up earlier of doing that inventory, of writing it down and saying, this is my thought, or this is the thing. And maybe even acknowledging where those thoughts came from, because I think it's really easy for us to acknowledge where our thought process is and say, oh my God, how did I think that? That's such an unhealthy thought. A lot of thoughts develop as survival tactics. And so I think it's important to cut yourself some slack, but also to notice that as well, because it's not just, oh, this thought is here and it's toxic or it's unhelpful. It's also acknowledging, where did this thought process come from? Where did it originate? Was it from somebody else who taught me this? Or was it from me? Or was it a friend? You know, what kind of going into that. And even saying to that specific thing, thank you for your service in a way. Thank you for what you've taught me, for how you've helped me survive. But if it's something that no longer serves you, of acknowledging that you can release it and let it go. And you can always do that on the full moon in Aries. I feel like that could be really powerful. I'll just say this, because there's a full moon in Aries on October 13th, which is, the full moons are a powerful time to write down everything that you want to release and then burn it. And you can also do that while there's a waning moon, and it'll be waning through, there's a dark moon on September 27th, which in my experience can be kind of an intense time to release stuff. I did that earlier this year and got violently ill. So talk about purging. So I would just say closer to the full moon, like 13th-ish. But since you're in Aries and it's a full moon in Aries, you could be feeling it pretty strongly. So I'll just say, before you burn it, or even before you start to write the list, I would say call on whoever you work with, your spirit guides, angels, ancestors, gods, goddesses, your spirits, fairies, Wa, Orishas, you know, whoever it is that you work with, and say, please help me to release this in such a way that I can handle and that is for my highest good. That way it's not something that's going to, you know, really put you through the ringer too much. And anything that does come after that, then you'll know it's coming in a way that you can physically, emotionally, spiritually handle, and it's for your highest good. So, just to recap, you are, this is an understatement now, going through a period of spiritual awakening, realization, epiphany. You're moving past bad choices. You're going to be diving headfirst into something, focusing on your dynamics where there's an even give and take. And when you are receiving something, to do so with gratitude. In the near future, you're going to be feeling hopeful, optimistic about something. There is a little bit of a delay on something going on. Part of the key to that is maybe leaving something behind. You may not be seeing your full power this month, but again, that's where that whole list came in, about recognizing what you want to change about yourself and how you can change it. In the future, you may have a situation where teamwork isn't going to happen quite the way that you want, and if that is the case, then focus on you, your strengths, your abilities, how far you've come, and really nurture that within yourself. I feel like be kind to yourself too a lot this month. And then in the future, you'll also be doing some internal work going inward. As for what to keep in mind, you may be juggling a few things this month. And also it's a time to get yourself or move out of any unhealthy thought processes that may have served you in the past. So, interesting. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful month of October, Aries. And again, if you're interested in booking a personal tarot reading or even a Reiki healing session, you can always email me. And all of my information is in the description box below. And please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a great month, Aries. I'll see you next month.